Alright guys, so we were actually pretty fortunate that both our female Tegus that were gravid right now laid their eggs day after another day. So I'm going to show you exactly how we set up our egg incubation containers for our Tegus right now. Now I don't know how many eggs she's laid, but I'm going to set up 2 egg boxes and I'm going to shoot to fit 15 eggs in each box if that's what's needed. So pretty simple stuff. You got your scale here. You can buy this from Amazon. This one is a scale that holds actually 10 pounds. You'll have to be careful because most scales actually calculate in like kilograms or something like that. So you'll just want to make sure you use your conversion tactics on Google to make sure you know how heavy of a scale you have. When you first read the scale, it's going to say 0. Then you're going to put your egg container on it. We like to use these 6-quart containers from the dollar store. They work great. When you put your egg container on it, it's going to say 100 grams. All you do is hit the tare button and that will zero it out. So now it's zeroed out. So this is vermiculite. You can buy this stuff at Home Depot or Lowe's. I get mine from Home Depot. They come in these big giant bags and it's basically used to hold moisture for the eggs during the incubation process. So now that this and the scale is zeroed out, you will take it and scoop about 200 grams worth of material. So since the scale is zeroed, all I need to do is fill the egg box and then weigh it. And it weighs 140 grams. So we're gonna put a little bit more in it. 205, perfect. So is 200 the magic number? I don't know. I know other Tegu breeders that use 200 grams of substrate. And so I'm going to try 200 for this season. If I do a 1-to-1 ratio of vermiculite, which is this stuff, to water weight, I will take 205 grams and double it. Now you can spray water in here. You could get these sprayers right here from Home Depot as well. They're like $12. Amazing stuff. It can water my whole gecko room, my savanna monitors, my everything that I need, my ball pythons. Right now what I need is 205 grams of water. So I'm gonna pump this full. And the scale is still reading 205 right now. And I'm just gonna spray in here until it reads double that. And you might say, why double? Because that is a true 1-to-1 ratio. 1 gram of water weight for every 1 gram of substrate vermiculite weight. So 205 doubled is 410. And I'm actually gonna go slightly over because that's what I've been doing lately. So I'm gonna go 430, 440, perfect. Now, once you have your vermiculite and it's all wet, you wanna get it mixed around pretty good. So you'll put the cap on, hold down the lid so that it doesn't get everywhere, and you will simply just shake it. So the last step you'll want to do is tap it. Kind of just shimmy it around, even it out. And now you have this perfect substrate that barely has any moisture in it. It's just a 1-to-1 ratio of moisture. And this moisture will hold the eggs for 60 to 90 days, however long you need it to. If you feel like it gets too dry at any point or the eggs start denting and it shows to be too dry, just take your sprayer and spray around the edges of the egg box. You don't want to spray the eggs themselves, just the plastic edges, and the water will run down the plastic edges into the sides, collect in there, and produce extra humidity. Now the 1-to-1 feature is more important than the clumping, but I remember always watching people's videos and I was like, what do they mean barely clumping? So I'm gonna take a handful of substrate right here and I'm just gonna squeeze it fairly hard, not as hard as I can, but pretty hard, and you can see that I can't even pick it up. It crumbles, but it makes a shape. You know, similar to sand at the ocean when you're building a castle, you need some moisture in that sand to build the castle, but it's not too moist to where when I pick it up, it still crumbles. That's the perfect ratio. All right, we're back outside. It is the middle of the morning, so she either laid early this morning or late last night. But you might say, Frank, how did you know that she laid eggs? Well, I saw her moving about her cage today, and as soon as I saw her, you can see their hips are very deflated looking, like a deflated balloon and very skinny. So I'll show you what that looks like. So we have this tub off to the side, and for her safety and for our safety, we're just gonna put her in here, close the lid for a few minutes, just so that she's not stressed out while we're pulling the eggs and we don't get attacked. Here's the beautiful nest that she built. it will be a whole bunch of debris on top, and then the eggs will be at the center all the way at the bottom. She might get a little defensive, so you want to try to grab them by the base, the thick part of the tail, without applying too much bendy pressure, and just use your other hand to support her weight. So she is being a little defensive right here. I want to try to not stress her out as much and just kind of support her weight on the way out, as well as not getting bit, because these gloves will not really protect me against a full bite from her. So there we go. So it's hard for me to show she's deflated, but we might be able to kind of see it in camera, or while she's in the box here, I should say. When they are gravid or pregnant for reptiles, they will get very, very thick around the base of their tail, from the middle of their stomach down to the base of their tail. And as she moves around here, you can see that when she breathes, she is not very thick in that area. And so that's how I was able to tell immediately this morning that she had laid. So you put them in the egg container off to the side. Sometimes she still has a couple eggs left in her, but because of the fact that she was out and eating and pushing more stuff into the nest, I really think she's done. So let's see what she got. Now she is a first-year female, so I'm not expecting a huge clutch, but average might be 20 or so. Again, beautiful nest. These guys build some beautiful nests. I'll be able to lift it up in one piece pretty much and just kind of put it off to the side. And here are the pearly whites. So I'll kind of show you what I'm looking at. When you find the eggs directly, they're going to look like this. They'll be at the center of the nest, all buried together. And she probably just laid these because they're not super dry, they're not super stuck together. So really cool. We're going to uncover them now, one at a time. Now I should mention that when you're first pulling the Tegu eggs, it's not going to matter where the embryo is, right side up or bottom side down, because you're not going to be able to see the embryo for the first few days to the first week or so of the egg's life. So just put it in the container, seal it up, put it in the incubator, and then come back a few days later and check for the embryos. That's when you'll turn the egg and make sure the embryo is on top of the egg for the rest of its incubation process. Wow, yeah, she laid a really good clutch for a first-year female. Amazing. And I was feeding her whole prey items a lot, like rats and stuff, you know, so that could be one of the reasons. You know, that whole prey item gives them a lot of nutrients, pure calcium from the bones, vitamin A, C, D, E, all that stuff in the body. So you'll see when the nest is fully depleted of eggs, it's just going to be this big hole that she had dug out where she laid the eggs. So take a look at the nest from a distance. It's lots of distraction, lots of shrubbery and leaves and stuff over the top, and then way down at the bottom she lays her 20 to 30 eggs in this hole. Now you want to kind of look around and poke around a little bit, make sure there's no eggs that, see? Oh, I thought I found one, but no eggs that accidentally got away. But in general, they're going to be all together in one area. All right, so when you're done, you will just put the nest back on top of where she laid the eggs, and then you will put her back. This way her mama instincts are still going, and she goes back into the cage. She still thinks that she has eggs and a nest to protect, and everything will be good. So just so that it's a little less stressful on them when you put the animal back, what you can do with feisty animals sometimes is just put their tub back in the cage and then lift the lid of the tub, and then just kind of either lift them out or wait till they jump out themselves, or kind of tip the tub so they walk out. This way you're not reaching in there like a hawk or an eagle and like grabbing the thing, you know? So she's here, she's ready to come out. So I'll just tip the tub a little bit, just like that. Actually her head's on this side, so I'll be gentle with her, and there you go. She will usually jump out. Now again, remember what we did. We need to use our press-in seal to secure this lid so it holds in all the moisture. But first I just want to see if these eggs look the same as the last eggs, meaning not having any embryo or anything that I can see. Now I was told by experienced Tegu breeders that the embryos will be difficult to see or impossible to see until a few days to a week go by. So yeah, these eggs, they look the same as the last eggs, If you remember when I showed the last eggs, it's just yellow, and then every once in a while you're gonna see some white spots. I think it's hard for me to show the white spotting to you guys, but the egg will have like little white dots all about it. There, you can see that little white dot. And so that might just be like weaker parts of the egg where maybe calcium didn't fill in. Should be okay. Wipe your surface clean because we're gonna put the press and seal on here. And we learned from last time that stretching it over the area and then ripping it upwards like so would be the best way to go about it. So again, stretch it. It's not as bad as saran wrap. It's so difficult to deal with, but this stuff is pretty nice. It's just called press and seal, like literally the letter N. And again, if you get a couple particles of substrate or something, it's not going to be that big of a deal because you just want to get as close to 100% sealed as possible to hold in that moisture, humidity. But if you're at 99.9%, that's not going to make a big deal. Okay, now that it's sealed, you'll just kind of fold the excess over. And we're gonna wind up going back into this tub after a few days to turn the embryos right side up anyway, so. All right, and that's one container down. So now that we're inside, you can kind of see the difference between a good egg and a bad egg. Now, I shouldn't say this one's automatically bad, but there is a chance that it might be. And if it is, you can kind of see what they tend to look like. Dented in a little bit. So we actually forgot to count the eggs before I locked them away, so let's do that now real quick. 25 eggs, guys, from this first year female. Really, really cool. All right, so last thing, we're just going to label it and put it in the incubator. This came from Nefertiti, which is our black and white girl. The eggs were laid on 5/13/21, and basically they'll start hatching 2 months or 60 days after this date, and you will start to see the eggs beginning to pip or hatch out. Certain babies will hatch out, and then you can kind of do that fun thing where you tickle all the eggs and they all start hatching out. So 2 months from now, that's when we will be on it. All right, guys, we're here in the incubator room. So literally an incubator is just simply a source of heat, and you want to distribute that heat evenly. And so as you can see up here, this room is 88 degrees at the top of the room and almost 88 degrees at the bottom of the room. How do you get it to do that? Because heat rises, right? So we have a heater like this, it heats the room, and then we simply turn the fan on max, and it will self-regulate this whole room to basically be the same temperature. And so you can see over here is about a degree cooler, which is where we want to be incubating these eggs at, but 87.5 degrees is where these eggs are incubating at, and that is perfect. So to keep it simple, incubation is a topic that, you know, is very difficult and confusing and stressful to think about sometimes, but to keep it simple, incubation is simply just a consistent heat source and an equal heat source at wherever the eggs are, you know? So Blush laid yesterday 40 eggs on the 12th, May 12th, and then Nefertiti laid 25 eggs on the 13th. And red Tegus and black and white Tegus, they tend to have, you know, the most eggs out of the Tegu family. This is a first year girl. You know, in the future, you know, Lord willing, she could lay upwards of 35 to 40. This is a few year old girl, and you can see that she is laying a lot already. But there you go. And this is our mock-up tub where it's set up the same as these other tubs. And I have 2 thermometers in here, one on one side, one on the other side, to make sure they're reading the same temperature, and 87 degrees is perfect. All right, guys, so guess what? It is 5 days later. The embryos are starting to show on the eggs. So I want to show you how we can make sure the eggs are the right side up. Here we also have our data entry system. So as we find out the fertile embryos, I will put it into the computer system. Now, some of the eggs are going to show signs of mold or fungus. So you can kind of see all of that hair and mold growing on it. I'll do an inspection, see if there's an embryo in it. If there's no embryo showing, it's probably not a good egg, and some people will throw them away. Being my first year, I might incubate them just in case. A lot of people ask, what do you wipe off the fungus with? Just a paper towel. So again, these eggs were laid 5 days ago, and the reason that you can't see the embryo when they're first laid is because of how thick the Tegu egg shell is. So you need to wait a couple days, and then you will start to see the egg filling out. As you shine the flashlight up to it, you can clearly see that pink dot right there. That is the embryo that you want facing up. Now let's take this kind of fungusy egg here, and let's see if we can even see any embryo. So inside of the fungusy egg, it's very difficult to really make anything out for sure, but since this is my first season incubating Tegu eggs, I'm just going to put it in here. It's probably not a good egg, but just to be sure, I'll leave it. As you are scanning the egg, you will turn it until you see that. Kind of showing up a little bit red on screen there, and that goes face up. And this is actually a great example of how sometimes the embryo will be more towards the top of the egg or the bottom of the egg. So in this case, the embryo is actually right here on the north side of the egg, but it is there, and so that's the way that we want to make sure that it is face up. Now, all of these eggs I pulled from the position that the mom laid them in, and then put it right down into the substrate, and that's pretty much what you want to do. But if you want to double check just to make sure embryos are on top, you can absolutely do that. And if you look, this one is actually showing up a little bit easier. After just 5 days, the embryos are really developing large now. And this embryo is about half the size of the egg after just 5 days. Whereas I couldn't see it at all 5 days ago. This egg is very moldy, very mushy looking, so it's probably no good. I'm gonna clean it off real quick. This one is really bad. You can really see a lot of green mold and stuff growing. This is like 99.9% bad. You can feed this off to your other animals. Now, if it's moldy, I don't know if you want to feed it off to your other animals, but a lot of people will feed off like babies that don't make it and stuff to their animals. So I'll have to do a little research to see if you can feed these off to your animals. I'm sure you can. I mean, they eat raw meat, right? So how bad could a rotten egg be for them? But so here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna put all the rotten eggs towards the back here, so that as incubation goes on, if they clearly are not going to make it, I'm just going to simply remove them. And again, you could just kind of wipe around. I mean, yeah, this egg is blue. Look at it. That is crazy. Crazy color. These two are actually decent and they're not molding. So I'm going to put them right there. These two are molding, and so if they go bad completely, I'll just pluck them out during the process. And so again, we take our press and seal, we clean the lip, make sure it has no vermiculite residue so this can completely seal, and we will simply just reseal it. So it's appearing that you do not need to use a separate piece of press and seal because there will still be enough stickiness here to hold in all that good humidity that you want. And if it wasn't for those moldy eggs, I would never need to open this thing again until incubation was, until they hatch. But because of those moldy eggs, I might actually wind up opening it and throwing it out if those eggs get really bad. If you feel like the press and seal needs replacement, then you can go ahead and do that. But looking at it here, it's still maintaining its stickiness. And as these eggs incubate, you want to look for condensation buildup. As long as you see condensation buildup, you are most likely good. It's holding humidity well. But if you start to see the eggs drying and they don't have enough humidity, what will happen is they will begin to dent. Sometimes you see other little red things floating around and stuff in the egg, but the embryo is going to be a very clear pink circle like this. It's going to be very circular, which I know it's hard to pick up on the camera, but I will give you an outline of the shape of it in the video now. Tegu breeding season. We have 2 females that went into the season, Nefertiti and Blush. The males that they were bred to, the dates that they laid, the amount of eggs they laid, the amount of embryos that I caught after, and then eventually how many of those 18 embryos actually hatched. So we pulled 25 eggs from Nefertiti, which is our first year black and white girl, and then we pulled 40 eggs from Blush, which I think this is her 2nd or 3rd season laying. She's about 3 or 4 years old. And out of 40 eggs, we found 37 embryos for our 3rd year girl. So you can see 7 of them were bad with the 1st year girl, and only 3 of them were bad with the 3rd year girl. So as they get older, they will probably tend to have higher rates of fertility, and that is something that this sheet will help us to track. And then this will be the really exciting column. Out of those 18, how many hatch? And out of those 37, how many hatch? That is going to be the next video. Well, thank you guys once again for tuning in to this video. I know I usually bring gecko videos and a lot of you are here for that, but there are other species we keep that we are very excited about, and Tegus is one of the species that we are very excited about, along with ball pythons. You can see this is our ball python room right here, which is actually 88 degrees or so, and so that's why we're able to incubate the eggs in the top of the corner here. So as always, if you have any questions, feel free to message me, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, any of those platforms. We are all GeekyGeckoCreations on those platforms. I appreciate your guys' time and commitment to our channel, for watching our videos, liking and commenting, because all of that helps us grow. So I thank you guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'll see you in the next one. And remember, have a Geeky Gecko great day. Peace.